661 Show of Force Part 2. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta Ox Nouvelle. So This little girl was at most 6 years old, so how could her strength have already reached such a terrifying level? Upon closer inspection, the hammer in her hand did not seem to be ordinary either. While the crowd was in shock, Taoist Ji Yuhao's expression had already turned unsightly. He hurried over to the side of the dead person and carefully examined him. Damn it, all of the bones in his body have been shattered. Her strength has surpassed the million jin mark. This kind of power was not something an ordinary person could possess. Taoist Ji Yuhao looked at Yizan with a cold gaze. When Yizan noticed this, he simply returned the cold gaze and said nothing. Very good, very good. Yizan, your disciples are really good. As soon as he finished speaking, Taoist Ji Yuhao ordered his subordinates to carry the disciple's body away. You're too kind, Yizan said humbly, but he could no longer hide the smile on his face. They had played themselves, and could only suffer the consequences in silence. Taoist Ji Yuhao snorted coldly and turned around to look at a few disciples not far away, who immediately understood Taoist Ji Yuhao's meaning and moved toward Feng Xian together. Now the atmosphere was not quite right. The entrance to the ancient realm had just opened, yet there was already someone dead, which dampened everyone's excitement. Zhu Guoyu had also rushed back at this time. After witnessing the attack, her heart was already burning with anger. As she was busy looking at the path ahead, she did not pay much attention to the situation behind him, which gave the people of the Supreme Divine Sect an opportunity. Fortunately, Shang Yun was here. Otherwise, Feng Xian would have been in real danger. Third sister, what you did just now was really great. Quick, come back over here. Making preparations to face the enemy at any moment, Feng Xian's hands released 2 balls of scorching flames. After seeing the 2 balls of terrifying flames, the people from the Supreme Divine Sect who had rushed over from behind did not dare to attack rashly, and just stood there stupidly. However, at that moment, Shang Yun suddenly spoke. Second sister, you go over to first sister's side first. Let me deal with these little minions and beat them up properly. Feng Xian was taken aback. However, when she saw that Shang Yun was already waving the hammer around excitedly, she laughed out loud. All right, I'll leave these small fries to you. I'll stand guard here for you though. Go ahead and play with them. After obtaining her second sister's permission, Shang Yun twirled the hammer in her hand happily. Here I come. As soon as she finished speaking, her figure shot out like a cannonball. FCK. The people from the Supreme Divine Sect were caught off guard. Because she was so small, they could only see the approaching hammer. However, they did not dare to hold back and used all their strength to resist. However, the moment their weapons touched the potato hammer, their arms immediately went numb. It was as if there was a huge mountain pressing down on their heads. There was no way to resist it at all. They were smashed into the ground like carrots. The Taoist Ji Yuhao suddenly stood up in anger. He had originally wanted these few people to deal with this little girl, but he did not expect that they would be dealt with instead, and in one move too. PFF'd, I'm dying of laughter. Gao Shun picked the right time to laugh, and stared directly at the Supreme Divine Sect's forces. Ooh, which sect's disciples got beaten up by a little girl? Is it yours, Taoist Black Iron? How embarrassing. Gao Shun, don't go too far. Taoist Black Iron was about to explode from anger. This was simply an undisguised insult. This little girl was obviously not a spiritual cultivator, yet had beaten several of their disciples to a pulp. This was truly a slap on the face. Pretending to think hard for a moment, Gao Shun suddenly slapped his thigh and shouted, Oh! They really are from your Supreme Divine Sect. I see, ha ha ha. After hearing these words, Taoist Black Iron spurted out a few mouthfuls of blood. Master, are you okay? The group of disciples standing beside Taoist Black Iron nervously rushed up to support him, but were immediately pushed away by him. Useless, completely useless. What are you all doing? Attack together. I don't believe that this little girl can turn the world upside down. After hearing Taoist Black Iron's order, a group of people instantly surrounded Shang Yun. Shang Yun did not panic at all when she saw the menacing group of people. In fact, she was eager to give it a go. Ooh, more scrubs. Hurry up and come over. Send as many people as you can. Otherwise, I won't have enough fun. Little girl, you're simply too arrogant. Are you tired of living? One of the Supreme Divine Sect's disciples, who was at the middle stage of the Void Realm, roared and launched a fierce attack. In an instant, he had already arrived in front of her. However, his charge and attack were met with a huge hammer. A deafening roar erupted, and there were even flashes of lightning. The whole scene was very shocking. By the time the lightning had completely dissipated, the disciple who had just launched the attack was lying in a deep pit. Damn it, let's join forces and show her our power. After seeing this scene, the rest of the group could no longer bear it. If they took turns to attack her, she would probably bury them all. All of them surrounded Shang Yun, and colorful lights appeared alternately as their attacks were fired at her. Boom! With a loud explosion, a huge ball of smoke and fire exploded, immediately pushing back the disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect. Moments later, Zhuge Yuyu also rushed over and unleashed several sword beams to knock down a few people. At the same time, she also brought Shang Yun out. 662 patients. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Third sister, we don't need to waste time here. Let's go inside first. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhuge Yuyu pulled Shang Yun and Feng Xian and entered the entrance with a flash. Upon seeing this, Taoist Guo Hao became even more enraged. Damn it, you surrounded 3 people and half of you ended up seriously injured. You didn't even hurt a single hair on their heads. What use do I have for you? Hearing this, the Supreme Divine Sect's disciples could only lower their heads, not daring to say a word. The Taoist Ji Yu Hao was currently in a fit of anger at this time, and Gao Shun thought this was an appropriate time to chime in. Ha 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 ha, looks like you guys have embarrassed yourselves again, huh? Gao Shun continuously circled around Taoist Black Iron and jabbered on, directly causing the latter to spit out a few more mouthfuls of blood. After ridiculing them for a while, Gao Shun felt satisfied as he returned to where the Great Wilderness Divine Sect's forces were smiling happily. This feels really satisfying. He had forgotten how long it had been since he had felt so satisfied. Furthermore, watching a 6-year-old girl beat up a group of disciples like that really was quite awesome. Almost all of the people present were from the major forces. They had all witnessed the scene that had just happened. For the disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect to not be able to stand up to a single little girl, how weak were they? Hee hee. Even the stoic-faced Aolei could not help but chuckle at this moment. Even if Shang Yun did not get a good ranking this time, her reputation had already been cemented. When she really started to cultivate, how powerful would she be? Taoist Kanghai and Taoist Shu Yun were equally shocked. After a moment, Taoist Kanghai smiled and said, hee hee, this little girl really has the potential to reach the sealed immortal realm. Taoist Shu Yun also turned around and looked at Yi Zan. Little brother Yi Zan, this disciple you've accepted really has unlimited potential. You're too kind. My disciple's potential is quite normal, really, Yi Zan said very calmly, but his heart was already bursting with joy. Once all of the participants entered the ancient realm, a burst of golden light flashed in the sky before a giant screen of light materialized, displaying a real-time broadcast of what was happening inside the ancient realm. How convenient. Inside, Zhuge Yuyu and the others had already arrived at a barren plain, alongside the disciples of many forces. A huge mountain peak stood in front of them. The mountain peak seemed to ascend into the sky, and the peak was shrouded by the clouds. They could sense danger on the mountain, but there were many paths that led to the top. She could already see some people climbing up. Zhuge Yuyu looked up coldly and was constantly on guard against those around her. At this moment, Feng Xian came forward and said, Yuyu, Waru Feng has already led a group of disciples to start climbing up. Should we follow him? When they entered, Feng Xian had paid special attention to the movements of the other members of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. Seeing that many of them had already started climbing, she asked for Zhuge Yuyu's advice. At this moment, Zhuge Yuyu spotted Mu Baiken, who was still calm and collected. He was looking at the cultivators above him with a mocking expression, and clearly had no intention of climbing up. Then, she looked around and noticed that the reincarnation fairy was also waiting in the same place, unbothered that everyone was climbing up. Forget it, let's wait first. There's no need to rush. After thinking for a while, Zhuge Yuyu made her decision. The competition at the gathering was very fierce, and one could be eliminated if they were not careful. It was precisely because of this that Zhuge Yuyu would rather wait a little longer. It would be best if she could set off right after Xie Tianyu of the Supreme Divine Sect, and perhaps tail him to take him out. At the foot of the mountain, seeing that there were still many people who were not moving, the atmosphere became a lot more tense. What's going on now? Why aren't these people climbing up? I don't understand either. It's making me so anxious. Forget it, I can't wait any longer. I'll make my move first. The crowd were puzzled, but still chose to hurriedly climb up the mountain. After all, they did not want to encounter these geniuses while they were climbing, as that would put them in a bad spot. Originally, they had wanted to let the geniuses go first, and they would climb up later. However, the fact that the geniuses were waiting threw them a curveball. On the other side, in a hidden corner, Xie Tianyu was staring coldly at Zhu Guoyu. A few of the disciples beside him spoke up angrily, "Senior brother Xie, that little girl seriously injured many of our people just now. She even killed one of them. Should we go over and take revenge now? As long as we defeat them all, they won't even have the chance to enter the rankings." After thinking for a while, Xie Tianyu said, "Forget it. Zhu Guoyu is quite strong, and it wouldn't be good to start fighting now. It's not the time yet. When they're climbing up, we'll deal with the other two first. It'll be considered as collecting some interest." When he said this, he laughed very proudly. His eager appearance made it seem as if he could not wait to make a move. On the other side, Zhu Guoyu had already noticed Xie Tianyu's malicious gaze and immediately glared back at him. She had already felt that something was wrong. Suddenly, she noticed that Shang Yun was looking around and came up with a plan. 663 Besieged Part 1. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Zhu Guoyu was very clear about Shang Yun's strength. If those people from the Supreme Divine Sect wanted to deal with her, they would probably end up in a miserable state. Thinking this, Zhu Guoyu immediately moved closer to Shang Yun and whispered, "Third sister, did you notice that group of people?" Looking in the direction Zhu Guoyu was pointing, Shang Yun nodded. Zhu Guoyu continued, "Those people are our enemies. When they attack us, you can smash them with your hammer and attack with all of your might, okay? Hee, alright, let me do it. I'm the best at smashing things." She happily twirled the hammer in her hand. It turned out that she was already so bored that she had become sleepy. Now, she had something to look forward to. After saying this, Zhu Guoyu looked at Feng Xian and said, "Second sister, I'll head up first later. You'll be in charge of staying back and taking care of Shang Yun." Alright, after Feng Xian agreed, she held Shang Yun's small hand tightly. Otherwise, she was afraid that this little girl would charge at the Supreme Divine Sect's disciples immediately if she let go. After a while, Mu Baikan suddenly stood up and stretched his muscles. He said lazily, "It's about time." With that, he held the sword in one hand and instantly rushed up the mountain. Seeing that Mu Baikan had already taken action, the reincarnation fairy followed closely behind and began her climb to the top. The show has begun. Seeing that two geniuses had already started to move, everyone else who had been waiting all made their move. However, Zhu Guoyu remained where she was, keeping a close eye on Xie Tianyu's movements. After a while, Xie Tianyu finally could not restrain himself and started climbing. Seeing this, Zhu Guoyu waved at her junior sisters and quickly followed him. According to the rules, only one person could reach the top of this towering mountain. Every time a participant advanced a certain distance, they would encounter an opponent, and those who were close by would likely become their opponents. It was precisely for this reason that Zhu Guoyu was waiting for the Supreme Divine Sect disciples. She wanted to end their journey at this gathering prematurely. However, the moment she set off, dozens of people from the Supreme Divine Sect immediately surrounded Feng Xian and Shang Yun. Seeing this situation, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. What are these people trying to do? Could it be that the Supreme Divine Sect wants to eliminate those two right now? People started whispering to each other. Those who were about to leave stopped in unison, staying to watch the show instead. After all, they had all seen the conflict between the two sects before the entrance to the ancient realm opened, so they knew that something big was about to happen. The show is about to begin. Can Feng Xian and her junior sister survive this crisis? The onlookers had no intention of helping at all, and retreated to watch from a safe distance. Hee, no one will help you this time, right? Lu Yun from the Supreme Divine Sect sneered. Hearing this, Feng Xian still looked calm and composed. Help? Do you think that with your mediocre skills, you're worthy of me asking for help? Feng Xian retorted disdainfully. Tisk, you can be arrogant all you want. You'll cry for help later, Lu Yun said fiercely. Third sister, you can start now. Go and play to your heart's content. Yes, second sister, just watch me. As soon as she finished speaking, Shang Yun rubbed her fists and picked her hammer off the ground. Come at me, scrubs. Being provoked by a 6-year-old little girl was completely unbearable, and the disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect immediately flew into a rage. Damned little girl, I will teach you a good lesson today. As soon as he finished speaking, 4 people from the Supreme Divine Sect attacked her together. Fierce attacks came one after another. Had it been anyone else, their first thought would be to dodge the attacks. However, Xiangyun had never been afraid and chose to fight head-on. She raised the hammer in her hand high and swung it at the attacks. Boom! When the explosion from the impact dissipated, everyone who witnessed this scene was completely dumbfounded. My goodness! Streaks of purple lightning crackled, stirring up a cloud of dust. By the time the dust settled, the 4 people who had just attacked had already fallen to the ground, their bodies still twitching. Whoa, she's too powerful. Everyone present was extremely shocked. Lu Yun even involuntarily took a few steps back. Who would have known that this seemingly harmless little girl could actually erupt with such astonishing power? This was definitely fake. An illusion. Haha, it seems like your Supreme Divine Sect isn't worth the effort, Feng Xian mocked, her eyes filled with disdain. During this process, she just stood there calmly and left the fighting completely to Xiangyun. How arrogant! Lu Yun was infuriated, and erupted with his full strength. Behind him, the remaining disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect released their auras and prepared to rush forward. No one can save you both today. Attack! As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Yun charged forward. 664 Besieged Part 2. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Seeing this, Xiangyun became even happier, and swung her hammer with all her might. Moments later, the wind and clouds surged, and streaks of purple lightning struck the ground, shocking everyone. With the help of her self-created move, Chain Hammer Strike, she would strike down her opponents. She had learned this move when Yi Zan taught her the endless lightning technique. She suddenly raised her hammer, and then directly smashed into the ground. In an instant, the ground cracked, and a violent force was transmitted through the ground into the surroundings, sending over 10 of the disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect flying. This is definitely not happening. At this moment, Lu Yun's face was pale and weak. He was truly afraid. Was this 6-year-old girl a reincarnation of a god? Rumble, rumble. Booming sounds rang out one after another, and with each subsequent swing of her hammer, more and more disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect were eliminated. Outside the entrance of the ancient realm, more than a dozen figures fell heavily to the ground. These people were the disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect who had been eliminated, and had been teleported out of the ancient realm. Seeing this scene, Taoist Ji Yuhao was furious. He looked at the group of disciples and shouted, "All of you are useless, can't you deal with a single little girl?" Taoist Black Iron hurriedly came forward and said, "Master, there is no need to get angry over such a small matter." PFF'd, I'm dying of laughter. Before Taoist Black Iron could finish his sentence, Gao Shun walked over to rub salt into the wound, cackling evilly as he examined the fallen disciples. It looks like the start of the gathering is the end of the gathering for them. How pitiful. Gao Shun, I advise you not to push your luck. If I want to push my luck, so what? What can you do? If you have the ability, come and attack me. You'll probably end up like your disciples here. Seeing Gao Shun's smug look, Yi Zan could not resist chiming in, Senior Brother Gao, you shouldn't say that. After all, the Supreme Divine Sect's disciples' fame is built on training and achievements. Each one of them are experts. Sigh, I understand. It was my fault. Fortunately, Junior Marshal Brother Yi warned me. Otherwise, I would have forgotten that they were experts after that performance. I don't understand. Oh wait, I get it now. These are fake disciples, right? Imposters. They are definitely not from the Supreme Divine Sect. Taoist Ji Yuhao turned his gaze to Yi Zan and Gao Shun, who were still bantering along happily. He wanted nothing more than to beat them and shut them up. Unfortunately, he did not have the strength to do so. Grandmaster. Taoist Ji Yuhao almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, the disciple beside him was quick to react and immediately held him steady. Seeing this scene, the corners of Yi Zan's mouth curled even more, feeling very happy in his heart. Gao Shun also felt very refreshed. It seemed that following this junior brother around would give him many opportunities to poke fun at people like this. Junior Marshal Brother Yi, Senior Brother Gao, you guys are really too ruthless, haha, Yuelin laughed and said. Damn it. On the other side, Taoist Ji Yuhao struggled to steady himself. After venting his anger on no one in particular, he turned around and said to a young man behind him. Li Hong, it's time for you to set off. Hurry up and go. After hearing this, the young man named Li Hong immediately patted his chest and smiled evilly. Master, leave this matter to me. 665 Li Hong Part 1. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. After hearing Li Hong's words, everyone present was shocked. Was this young man actually Taoist Ji Yu Hao's personal disciple? If that was the case, would he and Taoist Black Iron be of the same status? It seemed that this young man was extraordinarily talented. Seeing Li Hong slowly approaching the entrance, Ji Yu Hao was very proud. Haha, Yi Zan, this exceeded your expectations, right? I prepared a backup plan specifically to deal with your disciples. Just wait and see as my disciple tears yours apart. Gao Shun involuntarily frowned when he heard this. He could tell that this young man had reached the advanced stage of the Void Realm. Could Feng Xian and Shang Yun handle this newcomer? Thinking this, Gao Shun started to worry. Junior brother Yi, this fellow actually played a dirty trick. How about I ask Tianyu to come back down and help, he whispered to Yi Zan. After hearing this, Yi Zan smiled and watched Li Hong enter the ancient realm. There's no need for that. My two disciples can handle him. Yuelin and Gao Shun were somewhat stunned. Yi Zan looked pretty confident. Did he have some sort of backup plan as well? Since Yi Zan was not worried about it, then they decided that things would be fine. This junior brother of theirs was almost never wrong anyway. Gao Shun looked at Li Hong's figure from afar and sighed. The backup plan you left behind is this kid, huh? He looks quite strong. I hope he won't disappoint me. Taoist Ji Yu Hao replied calmly but proudly, no, he's not that strong. However, he's more than strong enough for him to deal with those two girls. Oh, since you're so confident, then let's take a good look at what happens. At this moment, in the ancient realm, Shang Yun was really having fun. No one here could withstand her hammer. It felt like smashing vegetables, and she was enjoying herself thoroughly. Lu Yun watched helplessly as the huge hammer descended upon him. He had no time to react at all. Just when he thought that it was all over, a shiny black broadsword flew over and blocked the hammer. By the time he reacted, he saw a young man slowly walking over. Lu Yun was momentarily stunned before he immediately greeted the newcomer. Lu Yun greets martial uncle Li Hong. Stand behind me. I'll take over this battle. Li Hong smiled and asked Lu Yun to fall back. Then, he walked toward Shang Yun. From Li Hong's gaze, it was as if he was looking at a plaything. Sensing the aura emanating from his body, Feng Xian immediately stopped Shang Yun from attacking and said, "Third sister, stop for now. This person is quite strong, so let me take over." Hearing this, Shang Yun glanced at Li Hong. Seeing his arrogant appearance, she wished that she could swing her hammer at him. Although she was still unhappy, she acquiesced to Feng Xian's request. It was not that she could not do it, but she would have to use the endless lightning skill that her teacher had taught her, which she still could not use skillfully. Yi Zan had also warned her not to use it unless she was in a real crisis, as one wrong move could result in a serious backlash. Alright, second sister, I'll leave this disgusting fellow to you. If you can't beat him later, I'll help you. Feng Xian almost facepalmed. Did her third sister not think very highly of her ability? Third sister, listen to me. Just stay here and wait for me. Don't wander about. As soon as she finished speaking, Feng Xian rubbed Shang Yun's little head and walked toward Li Hong. She then waved her hands, and extremely terrifying flames condensed in her palms. Seeing this, Li Hong was shocked. As that, the heaven-burning flames. That's something that only exists in ancient books. However, after taking a second look, Li Hong finally heaved a sigh of relief and said with a cold expression, haha, that's just a fake version of the heaven-burning flames. You almost had me there. 666 Li Hong Part 2. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. The flames in Feng Xian's hand were indeed not the heaven-burning flames, but they were bona fide heaven-grade flames. Furthermore, if these flames were cultivated and nurtured, they would be able to reach the level of the true heaven-burning flames. After seeing Feng Xian's charming appearance, Li Hong swooned. He swept his lecherous gaze up and down, before saying, "This girl is really beautiful. However, she is not my woman. What a pity." As soon as he finished speaking, the black saber in his hand flashed as he attacked, trying to catch her off guard. Feng Xian's expression remained calm as she stretched out her hand and slapped the back of the black saber, easily diverting it. Then, she hurled the ball of flames in her hand at him, when released terrifying waves of energy, forcing him to dodge and step back. From the first clash, Li Hong had not gained any advantage at all, which shocked him. Her flames were extraordinary, and her technique was also mysterious. Given the current situation, it seemed rather difficult for him to get close to her. Damn it. As he said this, Li Hong once again drew his saber and slashed at Feng Xian. The black saber beam sealed off all of her escape routes. However, she still somehow managed to mysteriously dodge these saber beams every time. After unleashing dozens of attacks in succession, Li Hong lost his patience. He had already confidently told his master that he would definitely eliminate these two people. However, things were not going as planned. Tisk, you damned girl, is that all you have? If that's the case, then let's end it now. After saying that, Li Hong unleashed his full strength. He's actually a peak-level Void Realm expert. Feng Xian was shocked by this. She was a middle-stage Void Realm cultivator, and with the help of her flames, she could resist his advanced-stage Void Realm level attacks. Now that things had been turned up a notch, she would not be able to cope if things remained the same. Thinking this, Feng Xian did not hesitate, and quietly took out her godsaber and closed her eyes. Moments later, Feng Xian's figure seemed to have disappeared from everyone's vision. Immediately after, her killing intent was unleashed, combined with the power of her flames. Seeing this scene, the people present had their mouths wide open. Heavens, this killing intent is too dense. What sort of technique is that? Lu Yun said in a trembling voice. Could it be that she's using a brand new heaven-grade divine power? In the sky, Li Hong stared at Feng Xian incredulously. He had not expected Feng Xian to have grasped so many heaven-grade divine powers. Tisk, it doesn't matter. Even a heaven-grade divine power won't change the outcomes now. After saying that, Li Hong waved the black saber around, causing it to release a blood-red cold light, as if a terrifying beast was baring its teeth. At this moment, the disciples present could not help but turn pale. They felt very afraid. This move, it's the Supreme Divine Sect's heaven-grade divine power, Beast Gaze. When Taoist Black Iron saw this scene, he could not help but feel a little angry. He was the leader of the Supreme Divine Sect, yet Taoist Ji Yuhao had not taught him this move. Instead, he had taught it to Li Hong. What did this mean? Could it be that Master still doesn't trust me? At the thought of this, Taoist Black Iron took a long look at his master and secretly made a decision in his heart. Beast Gaze, Gao Shun muttered to himself. He was a little flustered. It was really hard to say who would win or lose in the current situation. Yi Zan was also worried at this moment. He knew that even with the help of the Godsaber and her heaven-grade divine powers, there was no way she could defeat Li Hong's Beast Gaze. After all, her cultivation was still lacking in comparison to Li Hong's, and not just by one minor realm either. It was precisely because of this that Yi Zan could only place his hopes on Shang Yun. Little girl, whether or not your second sister can escape this crisis will depend on you. Let's see how terrifying your upper limit is. Yi Zan stared at the screen in the sky without blinking. At this moment, Li Hong was ready to attack. He said coldly, let's end this farce now. Die. In the blink of an eye, a terrifying illusory beast phantom condensed. Two dark red lights were released from its eyes that shot toward Feng Xian. Feng Xian had no choice but to use her godsaber and flames to resist this attack. Moments later, Feng Xian fell to the ground with a loud bang. The brief collision had pushed her back and knocked her off her feet. 667 Identity Exposed Part 1. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Fortunately, Yi Zan had given her a lot of recovery pills, so she immediately took out a soul-returning pill and returned to her peak condition. However, Li Hong did not let up, and pushed his advantage in an attempt to secure his victory. Go to hell. Before Li Hong could hit her while she was down, a huge hammer came whistling toward his face. Boom. Before he could dodge, the hammer smashed into his face, sending him flying hundreds of meters back. You actually dared to harm my second sister. You're courting death, Shang Yun shouted angrily. This was not the end. Purple lightning fell from the sky and instantly scattered the illusory phantom of the ferocious beast. Good heavens, is this for real? That little girl had actually sent Li Hong flying, and even took care of his beast gaze. Li Hong spat out a few mouthfuls of blood in succession. When he looked up, he saw purple lightning bolts constantly flickering around this little girl, forming a lightning domain that looked extremely oppressive. Wah! Outside the ancient realm, Taoist Ji Yuhao stood up abruptly, and his expression was filled with disbelief. At this moment, Yi Zan could finally relax. This little girl really does pull through in a crisis, Yi Zan thought to himself. There was still an immense amount of energy in her body, but this energy could only be used in times of danger. It was likely that the energy in her body had been activated because she believed that Feng Xian was in danger. Great. Awesome. Magnificent. Gao Shun shouted loudly. At this moment, Shang Yun seemed to be deep in thought. Suddenly, she opened her eyes, which shone brightly, and erupted with terrifying strength. An illusory figure as beautiful as a fairy appeared behind her, which made everyone unconsciously lower their heads. Could she be the reincarnation of a mighty figure? Although this illusory figure only appeared for an instant, almost everyone saw it. Taoist Kanghai and Taoist Shu Yun were both shocked. Is this the reincarnation that only exists in ancient books? Taoist Kanghai muttered to himself. He could not believe what he had just seen. He turned to Yizan beside him and saw that the latter was still calm. This meant that he must have known about all this long ago. His heart was filled with envy. Yizan was really lucky to have accepted a disciple like her. I guess it's set in stone then. This little girl has the potential to reach the sealed immortal realm. Taoist Shu Yun sighed. His casual words from earlier had become a reality. Little brother Yizan, you're too good at keeping secrets. Your youngest disciple is actually the reincarnation of a mighty figure. Fortunately, I managed to leave a favorable impression on her. Taoist Kanghai looked at Yizan with envy. Yizan smiled and replied, No. How is this related to me? It was just fate that we met. After hearing these words, the people tacitly stopped talking. In their hearts, they all understood what her status as a reincarnated being meant. This little girl definitely had a bright future ahead of her, but in order for her to mature and unleash her full potential, many things would be needed. Fortunately, she had become Yizan's disciple, which meant that she would not lack resources, treasures or even protection. No one would dare to attack Yizan's disciple openly. On the other hand, Taoist Ji Yu Hao's face instantly turned black after seeing this scene. His disciple was supposed to have taken care of both of those girls, but now this little girl had revealed such terrifying power. He turned around to look at Yizan. A thought suddenly came to his mind, and his eyes were filled with coldness. Coincidentally, at this moment, Yizan noticed his gaze. Taoist Ji Yu Hao, do you have something to say? He had to be wary of these people with ill intentions. She is the reincarnation of a mighty figure. Your great wilderness divine sect is really lucky. Quote. However, who knows if this little girl will be able to grow? Hearing Taoist Ji Yu Hao's words, Yizan only smiled calmly and said, Is that so? It seems that there will always be people who will become jealous when they see others doing well. However, it's best if such a situation does not appear. As soon as he finished speaking, Yizan took out his Cloud Heaven sword, releasing waves of extremely terrifying sword intent into the surroundings. The entire area was engulfed in his sword intent, causing everyone to turn pale and tremble. What was going on? Why was Yizan doing this? Everyone was starting to panic. 668 Identity Exposed Part 2. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. At this moment, everyone present was very nervous, and watched Yizan closely. Even Taoist Kanghai and Taoist Shu Yun felt a sense of lingering fear. Yizan, what do you mean by this? Seeing Yizan draw his sword, Taoist Ji Yu Hao was frightened. After all, he had already been defeated by Yizan and knew that he stood no chance against the latter. Yizan replied calmly, I really have to thank you for your timely reminder. After all, my disciple is the reincarnation of a mighty figure, so it's best not to let anyone know about this matter. If she encounters people who have ulterior motives, then she will be in danger. After saying this, the sword intent he was releasing instantly became even colder. It was as if even the air had frozen, and everyone present involuntarily held their breaths. In the blink of an eye, many flowers and plants danced in the sky, forming a huge formation. Everyone within the radius of the formation felt life-threatening danger. After that, Yizan calmly placed the Cloud Heaven sword in front of him and took out his god sword. FCK. There was another sword. Once the god sword was unsheathed, a terrifying amount of killing intent swept out, nearly bringing some cultivators to their knees. Yizan then continued. This little disciple I took in is usually very playful and mischievous. She likes to run around and get herself into trouble, so I won't have the chance to protect her at all times. Quote. Since you all already know that she's the reincarnation of a powerful expert, I can only apologize to you. After all, only the dead can keep secrets. After hearing these words, everyone present turned pale, and some people even started to flee. Others simply stood frozen in place from fear. No one here was capable of withstanding Yizan's attacks. At this moment, a door appeared in the sky, and a destructive aura swept out. It seemed like Yizan was serious this time. At this moment, Taoist Ji Yuhao was even more frightened. He wanted to slap himself a few times. He had only said those words casually, but he had successfully provoked Yizan. He should have realized how important this little girl was to Yizan. Was he going to kill everyone here to keep his disciple's secret safe? Taoist Ji Yuhao was truly afraid from the bottom of his heart, and quickly said, Yizan, don't be angry. I don't have any intention of targeting your disciple. Please don't misunderstand. Is that so? Did I really misunderstand your words? Yizan spoke coldly and focused his killing intent directly on Taoist Ji Yuhao, scaring him so much that his legs could not stop trembling. I just wanted to give you, it's just a friendly reminder. At this moment, Taoist Ji Yuhao really did not know what to say. He quickly glanced at Taoist Kanghai and Taoist Shu Yun, and gestured for them to help him out. After all, they too were at risk if Yizan really decided to act. Would Yizan kill them? They really could not be sure because Yizan never seemed to play by the rules. If he really wanted to do it, such a thing was within his capabilities. Don't worry, little brother Yi, Taoist Ji Yuhao was just flapping his mouth. No one here would be able to do anything to your disciple anyway. Taoist Kanghai could not take the risk. He would not be able to stop Yizan if he really started killing everyone. At this moment, everyone present hated Taoist Ji Yuhao to the bone. Why did you say such words? If you want to die, don't drag us along with you. We are just bystanders, yet you implicated us with your words. Are you trying to get us all killed? What a bloody bastard. When he heard that Taoist Kanghai's words, Yizan retracted part of his sword intent, allowing everyone to breathe a sigh of relief. His original goal in doing this was to intimidate, rather than kill. After all, it was only a matter of time until Shang Yun's special identity became publicly known. Killing these people would only delay the inevitable, and would do more harm than good, especially if the massacre was discovered. Therefore, the best course of action was to embed seeds of terror into these people's hearts, which would prevent them from having any evil thoughts about harming Shang Yun. Oh, Yizan spoke with an indifferent expression, but his eyes were still fixed on Taoist Ji Yuhao. Hearing this, Taoist Kanghai hurriedly said, let's not be rash. Although this little girl is the reincarnation of a mighty figure, the power of karma within her body is also very strong. There's no way to bypass that power of karma to hurt her. 669 Ahem, free labor. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Besides, you're already considered the #1 expert in the East Continent. Who would dare to scheme against your disciple? There's really no need to kill everyone here. Of course, Yizan was aware of this, but he simply wanted to use this opportunity to intimidate people. Honestly, even if Yizan himself tried to kill Shang Yun, he would probably die. After all, that power had been prepared by a sealed immortal realm expert. After hearing Taoist Kanghai's words, Yizan pretended to agree and nodded. He then said with a smile, that's right. How would an ordinary person dare to do such a thing? However, there's one thing I have to say. Shang Yun is my disciple. I don't care which expert she was in her previous life. Now, she's just another one of my disciples. As soon as he finished speaking, Yizan swept his cold gaze at the crowd and sneered. I've already memorized all of your appearances. If my disciple is injured when she goes out exploring, then don't blame me for being ruthless. I will blame this on all of you. It's your fault for discovering her secret. Whether you live or die depends on yourself. After hearing this, the expressions of everyone present changed drastically. FCK, don't tell me he's going to blame us if she trips over herself. How can you blame us for this? Although they were filled with resentment, they did not dare to speak up. That was akin to suicide, really. The one that really deserved to be blamed was Taoist Ji Yuhao. If it was not for this old man, none of this would have happened. Many people had already begun to take action. Hurry up and draw a portrait of that little girl. In the future, hang it in the sect and make sure all of the disciples memorize what she looks like. They are not allowed to provoke her. Also, if she appears in our territory, secretly send experts to protect her. Don't let her get hurt, or we'll end up being blamed for it. Yizan was usually a man of his word, so everyone took what he said seriously. Taoist Ji Yuhao's expression was also extremely gloomy. He really did not expect Yizan to actually go this far. Gao Shun muttered to himself, damn, this method of doing things is pretty awesome. With just a few words, he's forced these people to look out for his disciple. No one will want to mess with her, and everyone will try to protect her. Yizan probably won't even have to lift a finger to keep her safe. Once Yizan saw that he had gotten his message across, he smiled and put the cloud heaven sword away. Remember what I said today. After all, I, Yizan, have always been a man of my word. Don't forget, especially you, Taoist Ji Yu Hao. Yizan looked at Taoist Ji Yu Hao with a smile, as if he was strongly encouraging him to try something. After hearing these words, Taoist Ji Yu Hao trembled. Hee, you really know how to joke around. I definitely will never do such a thing. That little girl is really too cute. Who would be so cruel as to hurt her? Who the FCK wanted to die? Even though my mouth is very stubborn, my brain is not lacking in any way. That's good. From the looks of it, you're quite smart. After saying this with a smile, Yizan put the god's sword away, and the roiling sword intent dissipated. Everyone at the scene finally felt at ease and heaved a sigh of relief. After seeing these people relax, Yizan's heart was basically exploding with pride. Ha ha ha, it seems that I'm now the big boss of the East Continent. This was brilliantly played, if I do say so myself. I should give myself a round of applause. 670 Activating Berserk Mode Part 1. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Yizan smiled stupidly to himself. At this time, Aulay arrived at his side. His eyes were glued to the screen in the sky, and there was nothing but shock in his eyes. Even though he had long known that this little girl was the reincarnation of an expert, seeing it for himself was still quite shocking. Junior brother Yi, the background of this disciple you accepted is really great. We should take measures to ensure her safety, as she will definitely become a future pillar of the sect. She has the potential to become the saintess of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. Aulay said this from the bottom of his heart. The Great Wilderness Divine Sect was similar to the Jade Lake Divine Sect, as they usually appointed a saintess, like the reincarnation fairy. However, they had not done so for many years, as no one had been qualified for the position. Shang Yun was definitely worthy though, so Aulay was very excited. After hearing his words, Yizan quickly interjected. Senior brother Ao, actually, Shang Yun is not the saintess of the Great Wilderness God Sect. There's someone else. Oh, after hearing this, Aulay, Gao Shun, and Yuelin were all stunned. Who? The saintess was considered one of the top figures of the sect. How could they not know if they had one? Yizan said calmly, I've told you before that there's another Great Wilderness Divine Sect in the Heaven Continent. Someone there has already been appointed as the saintess. They revealed looks of shock and admiration. To be able to become a goddess, just how monstrous was this person? Not bad. Even the heavens are looking after our Great Wilderness Divine Sect. Inside the ancient realm, Shang Yun was about to commence an intense battle. When the energy in her body was stimulated, the entire sky was covered in dark clouds, giving everyone around her a great sense of oppression. Even Feng Xian's face turned pale when she saw the fairy-like figure emerging from Shang Yun's body. Third sister. Then, she suddenly recalled what her teacher had said to her at that time. Shang Yun's body contained an immense amount of energy. If it was released, then the power she could exhibit was unfathomable. Her worries dissipated. Originally, she felt that he was destined to be eliminated today, but her third sister had suddenly revealed such great power. Sigh, now even her junior sister was more powerful than she was. Was this not rather embarrassing? Oh well, there's no need to take it to heart, she thought to herself. Was it not good to be protected by others? She did not like to fight anyway, and only stepped onto the path of cultivation only to change her fate. Rather than becoming the strongest expert, she would much rather refine pills. Shang Yun was floating in the air holding her hammer aloft. Bolts of lightning flashed around her, and she looked like a god of war, invincible and powerful. Although Feng Xian had already recovered to her peak condition, she did not choose to stand up. Instead, she pretended to lay weakly on the ground. Since her junior sister's power had been incited by the fact that she had been injured, it was best to stay put. Feng Xian suddenly wondered if she pretended to be heavily injured, would her junior sister go berserk? Thinking this, Feng Xian acted cunningly and forced herself to cough out a mouthful of blood. Poochie. After doing all this, Feng Xian immediately pretended to be weak. When the others saw this scene, they immediately had a premonition that things were about to take a turn for the worse. Second sister. Shang Yun's eyes immediately turned bloodshot as she shouted in concern. At this moment, the illusory figure condensed again as Shang Yun flew into a rage and stared fiercely at the Supreme Divine Sect's cultivators. All of you will die. As soon as she finished speaking, she swung her hammer fiercely. It was as if a storm had descended from the sky. FCK. At this moment, everyone finally knew they were in deep SHT. They no longer had the chance to escape. 671 Activating Berserk Mode Part 2. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Endless Lightning Technique. Myriad lightning seals the universe. With a furious roar, streaks of purple lightning struck the illusory phantom of the ferocious beast phantom that had just condensed again repeatedly, shattering it into pieces. Li Hong's face instantly turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that he had suffered a serious injury. This can't be happening. It was only one attack, yet he had already suffered such a heavy injury. He turned around and realized that everyone around him had frightened expressions. Shang Yun, who had gone berserk, was attacking indiscriminately with bloodshot eyes. No matter who it was, as long as she saw them, they would experience her wrath. Even those who hid far away and wanted to watch a good show were also blessed by a few lightning bolts. Why are you attacking us too? We've never offended you. Within a short period of time, these people's hair had been singed by lightning, and their clothes had been burnt black. They hurriedly fled to avoid. After seeing this scene, Feng Xian almost laughed out loud. Her body trembled as she forced herself to stay motionless on the ground. Third sister is really too easily deceived. Hee hee. She felt a little guilty, but felt that it was necessary for them to deal with this situation. At this moment, Li Hong was on the receiving end of a hammer strike. Boom! Li Hong was instantly smashed into the ground, creating a huge pit. Feeling pain all over his body, Li Hong was still in a state of disbelief. This can't be true. I can't lose so easily. Quote. He stood up shakily, then took out a pill and consumed it, allowing his body to completely recover. Marshal Uncle Li, if there's no other way, let's retreat first. It won't be too late to deal with her later. Lu Yun was scared out of his wits. He was afraid that if he did not escape quickly, his life would be in serious danger. If they were killed in this space, they would not really die. However, who knew if there would be other side effects? Get lost. Li Hong immediately chased Lu Yun away. He had always believed himself to be invincible. There was no way that he would be defeated by this little girl. If he lost to Feng Xian, he might be able to accept it. However, what he could not accept was losing to a 6-year-old girl. You're all cowards. Are you even worthy of being called disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect? All of the cowards should just get lost. Those with guts should follow me and beat this little girl up. I don't believe that a single little girl can defeat all of us, Li Hong said fiercely. Then, he took out his black long saber and erupted with an extremely terrifying aura. The ferocious beast phantom condensed above his head again, and this one seemed to be much stronger than the previous one. Moments later, he soared into the sky and then swung his saber at Shang Yun. The beast phantom above his head opened its mouth wide, trying to swallow her whole. Shang Yun was not flustered at all, and swung her hammer upwards to meet the descending saber slash. Even faced with the ferocious beast phantom that was hundreds of times larger than her body, Shang Yun did not exhibit any fear and attacked without hesitation. Then, her hammer suddenly enlarged and smashed into Li Hong and the phantom, causing even space to tremble. FCK. That's terrifying. If it was me, I would have been turned into meat paste by that strike. Is this little girl really human? The onlookers were frightened by this scene, and were wondering if she was even of the same species as they were. Was she a monster disguised as a human? Accompanied by a loud bang, the ferocious beast phantom in the sky shattered once again, and Li Hong was smashed into the ground, creating another huge pit. It seemed like there was no hope of victory at all. Marshal Uncle Li. When he saw Li Hong in that state, Lu Yun became anxious and shouted in exasperation, "It's now or never. Attack or we'll be done for." As soon as he finished speaking, dozens of the Supreme Divine Sect charged at the same time, trying to swarm and drown Shang Yun with numbers. However, before they could even get close, bolts of lightning struck them mercilessly. Shang Yun had turned into a god of death. She was furious that her second sister had been severely injured. "I'm going to smash all of you into meat patties." She did not want her second sister to sleep forever like her family, and swung her potato hammer repeatedly at the Supreme Divine Sect's disciples, sending them flying each time. Within a short moment, she had dealt with all of them, and they had all been eliminated from the gathering. They had not even managed to start climbing the mountain, much less vie for the rankings. No way, I will never admit defeat. Li Hong could not believe what he was seeing, and wanted to flee so that he could retain his chance at continuing to participate in the gathering. However, Shang Yun would never allow it. After all, he was the one who had injured her senior sister. 672 Yunhai appears Part 1. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Seeing that Li Hong was about to escape to the top, Shang Yun swung her hammer and smashed the path that he was planning to take upwards. Mountain rocks instantly shattered and flew in all directions. Really, the only appropriate word to use here is FCK. Everyone was completely dumbfounded, even those outside the ancient realm. The mountain had existed since ancient times, and was protected by the power that governed the ancient realm. However, the mountain was actually damaged by Shang Yun. At this moment, Li Hong was already sweating profusely. If this girl's hammer had hit him just now, he would definitely have died. When the people outside the ancient realm saw this scene, they all nodded to themselves. The reincarnation of a mighty figure was indeed different. Powerful did not even begin to describe her. Don't be rash. At this moment, Li Hong was no longer arrogant. In fact, he felt like kneeling down and begging for mercy. He fell backwards, and started retreating when he saw Shang Yun approach him with her hammer. From his perspective, she looked like the god of death. Then, his legs went limp. You must die today, Shang Yun said coldly. She raised her hammer and aimed it at Li Hong. Li Hong tried one last time to resist her, but it was all in vain. The hammer smashed into his saber, completely deforming it. Then, it landed on his body, causing it to flash and disappear. He had been eliminated. Shang Yun became anxious when she saw this. She was unaware of the fact that one would not really die after being killed in the ancient realm, so she thought that Li Hong had escaped. She raised his head and looked around, but could not find Li Hong at all. All she could see were the remaining Supreme Divine Sect disciples, as well as those who had stayed to watch the show, trying to sneak away. Since she could not find Li Hong, she decided to vent her anger on these people. When they realized this, they all had the same thought. FCK. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have started climbing instead of staying back here. It's over now. Damn it. The people present felt that they were innocent bystanders, but Shang Yun was not in the mood to figure out who was who. She soared into the sky, and streaks of purple lightning flashed once again, creating a large lightning cage that trapped everyone inside. I can't take it anymore. Among these people, Yunhai was furious. He was planning to bide his time and then swoop in to earn the victory at the crucial moment. However, it now looked like he was about to be eliminated by this little girl. This was unacceptable. Damn it, you little girl, I can't stand it anymore. As soon as he finished speaking, Yunhai unsheathed his sword and unleashed his aura. His peak-level void realm cultivation was revealed at this moment, stunning those who were trapped inside with him. Who would have thought that there would be a genius hidden among this crowd of motley people? Why have I never seen this person before? Who is he? If I'm not wrong, he should be from the ice zone. The signature cold aura emitted from his body is really too obvious. I know who he is. This person is an ice Dao expert from the ice temple of the ice zone. Moreover, that ice sword he wields is very powerful. He is one of the participants who is tipped to emerge victorious. I didn't expect to see him here. After hearing this, everyone finally understood who he was. In that case, are we saved? After seeing Yunhai appear, everyone was overjoyed. If he could defeat this little girl, then they would still be able to continue participating in the gathering. Seeing Yunhai step forward, Shang Yun blinked, and then turned around to ask those who had spoken, Ice Dao. Is it strong? It can't be considered the strongest, but it's still rather powerful. Shang Yun was dumbfounded. Was it or was it not strong? Why were they beating around the bush? Having learned nothing useful, she swung her hammer at the person who replied, instantly eliminating him. After releasing his aura, Yunhai hovered in the air with his sword in hand, preparing for battle. It felt very satisfying to be acknowledged and recognized by others. The ice Dao contains the power. Yunhai started to speak, but Shang Yun was having none of it, and swung her hammer at him. FCK. At least let me say something. Yunhai's expression changed drastically. He had been accumulating his strength just now to deal Shang Yun a vicious blow. However, the little girl had not bothered to listen to his spiel and simply attacked head-on and without hesitation. Caught off guard, he was left in the lurch, and was forced to endure dozens of hammer strikes. Yunhai lasted about 60 seconds before being smashed into the ground to create another one of Shang Yun's signature pits in the ground. 673 Yunhai appears Part 2. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Seeing that Yunhai was defeated in an instant, everyone felt despair. He was supposed to be their savior. Yunhai struggled to spit out the soil in his mouth. Then, he climbed out of the pit with great difficulty. He had really underestimated her. After taking out a recovery pill and consuming it, Yunhai felt a little better and once again floated into the air. His face was very gloomy. He had just made a fool of himself in front of so many people. How was he supposed to show his face in public in the future? After taking a deep breath, Yunhai became furious. He had to regain his pride, or he would forever remain a laughingstock. Little girl, you are indeed quite strong. However, I only underestimated you earlier and did not dodge. You might have succeeded the first time, but I'm going all out now. Be careful. As soon as he finished speaking, Yunhai instantly mobilized his spiritual power and channeled it into his sword, which started releasing an extremely terrifying sword aura. When the others saw this, they regained a sense of hope. Yunhai's face had an evil smile as he suddenly attacked. Cold sword beams flashed toward Xiangyun in an instant, and it seemed impossible to dodge the attacks. However, before the sword beams could touch her, Xiangyun raised her hammer in front of her body, pointing its head toward Yunhai. Then, as everyone watched incredulously, the hammer suddenly expanded. Not only did it block all of the sword beams, but it also expanded lengthwise to crash into Yunhai. With a loud bang, Yunhai crashed onto the ground again. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and could tell that many of his bones had been broken. At this moment, Yunhai was filled with self-doubt. What was the use of living in this world? Everyone finally gave up helplessly. It seemed that this so-called genius would not be able to save them. Yunhai used all his strength to crawl to his feet. The attack just now could be considered his strongest attack. However, it had been simply swatted away uselessly by Xiangyun's hammer. Ice Dao kid, are you done? Hurry up and do something if you aren't. Xiangyun shouted. She had run out of patience. She wanted to get rid of these people as soon as possible and check on her second sister. Yes, forget it, I'm not playing with you anymore, Yunhai said without hesitation. Although he was unwilling, he could only accept his fate. There was no point in struggling anymore. Thinking this, Yunhai suddenly felt even more wronged. He had painstakingly prepared so many things, but had still lost to a 6-year-old girl. Without hesitation, he turned around and voluntarily exited the ancient realm. He was not only scarred physically, but also mentally. After seeing Yunhai leave, everyone else looked at each other worriedly. What should we do now? Should we voluntarily admit defeat, or fight this little girl to the death? Even though that Yunhai guy was useless, he was truly a peak-level Void Realm expert. What chance do we have against her? After thinking for a long time, the onlookers spoke up one after another. Brothers, I hope you manage to get a good ranking and give this little girl a good beating. I suddenly remembered that I have to go back and take care of my mother, so I'll take my leave first. Okay, no worries. My wife is going to give birth soon, so I'll be leaving too. After coming up with random excuses, many people chose to withdraw. The remaining people were already so scared that their legs were trembling. What could they do now? Outside the entrance to the ancient realm, streaks of light flashed, and the Supreme Divine Sect disciples appeared in sorry states one after another and fell to the ground. 674 Master, I don't want to stay here anymore. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Not long after that, Li Hong appeared at the entrance, looking rather miserable. After struggling to stand up, he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood again. His face was pale and weak. It was obvious that being hit by Xiangyun's hammer had gravely injured him. Sorry, Master, I didn't manage to fulfill your expectations, Li Hong lowered his head and said. He really did not know how to face his master. At this moment, Taoist Ji Yu Hao's face was so gloomy that it would fit right in a haunted house. Useless. All of you are useless. It seemed that smoke was about to come out of his ears. The trump card he had painstakingly prepared had been defeated by a 6-year-old girl. Gao Shun was quick on the uptake. Oh, just look at him. He did so well. He took 3 hammer strikes from Xiangyun. That's a new record, you know. Then, he turned around to speak to his disciples. You all saw how strong he was, right? He was a cut above the other disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect. Truly worthy of being someone nurtured by Taoist Ji Yu Hao. After hearing this, Taoist Ji Yu Hao spat out a mouthful of blood. It was simply infuriating. He had dispatched almost all of the disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect, other than Xie Tianyu, to deal with Yizan's 2 disciples, but they had all been defeated, including his personal disciple. How shameful. Gao Shun, don't push your luck. Taoist Black Iron stared fiercely at Gao Shun. However, Gao Shun paid him no mind and replied disdainfully, why not? Wanna fight? After hearing this, Taoist Black Iron instantly backed down. His master had lost to Yizan, and the sect's disciples had been defeated by Shang Yun. If he lost too, it would complete the treble and the Supreme Divine Sect's reputation would be thrown further down the gutter. HMPH. Don't get too arrogant. We haven't lost yet. It's still too early to determine the final victor. It was then that Gao Shun recalled that Xie Tianyu had not been eliminated yet. At this moment, the rankings were refreshed, and everyone could see that Xie Tianyu was already ranked 11th. He's already ranked 11th. Gao Shun was momentarily stunned. When he scanned the rankings for the Great Wilderness Divine Sect's disciples, he discovered that the highest ranking one was Hua Rufeng at 18th. Zhu Guiyu's name was not on the rankings yet, so he was unsure as to how she was faring. Turning around to look at Yizan, he noticed that the latter remained calm and composed. Hee, just watch carefully, Taoist Black Iron said with a mocking expression. If that little girl wasn't the reincarnation of a mighty figure, those 2 disciples would have been eliminated. Besides, who knows if that girl lying on the ground there will be able to continue. She hasn't woken up after so long. As he spoke, Taoist Black Iron's gaze was focused on Feng Xian, who was still pretending to be injured and unconscious. After hearing these words, Gao Shun remained unbothered. The current situation was fine. The more these 2 harbored hopes for Xie Tianyu, the harder they would fall later. He would be able to enjoy himself much more then. Thinking this, Gao Shun happily rejoined the Great Wilderness Divine Sect's camp. At this moment, a few more streaks of light flashed, signifying the end of those participants' journey at the gathering. Among these figures, the one in the most dire straits was undoubtedly Yun Hai. As a peak-level Void Realm expert, he had been eliminated before he could even step foot on the mountain. It was too tragic. Fortunately, he was not alone, and countless disciples of the Supreme Divine Sect had experienced the same fate, including another peak-level Void Realm expert, Li Hong. Looking at them, Yun Hai felt much better. Yun Hai, what happened? After seeing Yun Hai's despondent figure, the Ice Temple's cultivators became worried. They knew his strength well, and had not expected him to be eliminated so early. Master, I don't want to stay here anymore. Can we go back to the Ice Temple? Hearing this, Yun Hai's master's face darkened. What kind of heavy blow did his disciple suffer to be able to say these words? Then again, it made sense. Being beaten to a pulp by a 6-year-old girl would do that to anyone. Even an ordinary person might not be able to accept this, let alone a genius like him. 675 Time to get up. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Beastard, how can you say such things? Since you've stepped onto the path of cultivation, you shouldn't be afraid of failure. Without experiencing hardships, how can you improve? What you need to do is to learn from this failure and then continue to improve yourself. Fine, let's go back to the Ice Temple. You'll continue cultivating there. Always maintain a serious and devoted attitude toward cultivation. The path of cultivation will never end. Losing is just a bump on the road you have to get over. However, if you don't learn from your failures and defeats, you will never reach the peak. Every expert has suffered defeat at some point. Be strong and resilient. This experience will be useful to you in the future. Hearing this, Yun Hai instantly felt energized and was roused from his despondent state. Master's words are right. However, at this moment, his heart was filled with hatred for Li Hong. If it was not for this guy, how could Shang Yun have gone berserk? If Taoist Ji Yu Hao was not here, he would have rushed over to beat Li Hong up. Inside the ancient realm, Shang Yun had locked onto the remaining people, and wanted nothing more than to get rid of all of these pesky people. However, at this moment, Feng Xian opened her eyes and looked around. Stunned, she realized that there were so few people left. Ahem, this time, I seem to have gone a little overboard. It seemed that her act had gotten her third sister riled up, resulting in the current situation. If she did not wake up soon, the remaining people would probably be eliminated. At this moment, Shang Yun also noticed that her second sister had woken up, and dropped her hammer and pounced towards Feng Xian. Oh, second sister, fortunately you didn't fall asleep forever. As she spoke, Shang Yun immediately threw herself into Feng Xian's arms. She buried her little head into Feng Xian's chest, and no longer looked as fierce as before. At this moment, without Shang Yun to guide it, the lightning cage faded away, allowing the remaining participants to leave safely. After hearing these words, Feng Xian felt very embarrassed. She did not know if she should continue pretending to be injured. After thinking for a moment, Feng Xian gave up on this idea. After all, the ground was quite cold and it was not comfortable to lie down. Moments later, Feng Xian dusted the dirt off her clothes and stood up. She even stretched her body lazily. That feels better. Seeing Feng Xian's calm and unfazed expression, everyone was instantly dumbfounded. Feng Xian wasn't seriously injured at all. What is going on here? Was I beaten up for no good reason? At this moment, these people were already cursing inwardly. Initially, they all thought that Shang Yun had gone berserk due to how injured Feng Xian was. However, the truth was that Feng Xian was completely fine. She even lay on the ground and rested while they were getting beaten up. This was clearly done on purpose. FCK, the human heart is so wicked. After stretching her body, Feng Xian yawned and found a comfortable mountain rock to sit on. Shang Yun was still in her arms, looking at her second sister with a puzzled expression. Second sister, are you not injured? As she spoke, Shang Yun stretched out her small hand in disbelief and kept touching Feng Xian's body, wanting to see where she was injured. However, after a while, she failed to find any injuries. Feng Xian smiled and said, "Third sister, I don't think I said I was injured. But I saw you fall to the ground just now." Feng Xian burst out laughing. "I didn't fall. I was just a little tired, so I decided to rest. Seeing how powerful you were, I decided to relax and enjoy your fight." So that's the case. Anyway, it was fine as long as her second sister was not injured. After hearing this, the surroundings fell silent. "I'm furious. Don't hold me back. I must fight her to the death." On the other side, Yun Hai, who had finally managed to calm himself down, was once again enraged. It was all for naught. Feng Xian was simply pretending to be injured. If they had simply eliminated all the people from the Supreme Divine Sect, it would have been acceptable. However, the rest of them had done nothing at all. They were collateral damage simply because they were present. At this moment, it was not just Yun Hai who was feeling emotional. Li Hong was the same. He had been consoling himself that he had at least defeated Feng Xian, but even that had been taken away from him. Taoist Black Iron's expression was also dark. His conversation with Gao Shun about Feng Xian replayed itself in his mind. FCK. He had made a fool of himself again. PFF'd. Xian is really special. Even I was fooled by her. Gao Shun laughed heartily as he spoke. It seemed that she had learned more than just cultivation techniques from Yi Zan. 676 Fate Energy. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So Yi Zan was smiling from ear to ear. He already knew what was going on. After all, before sending his disciples off, he had already given them many recovery pills. Even if they suffered serious injuries, they would be fine after eating one or two. What should we do now? The remaining people exchanged glances, not knowing what to do next. If we don't run away now, then we'll be eliminated. Move quickly. As soon as this person finished speaking, he rushed up the mountain, and was soon followed by the rest of the group. They actually felt quite lucky. At the very least, they could still participate in the gathering. Feng Xian allowed them to leave, choosing instead to tend to Shang Yun. As her junior sister had just expended a lot of energy, she took out a soul-returning pill and fed it to her. After Shang Yun ate this pill, she felt a large amount of energy flowing into her body, and felt rather comfortable. Lying in Feng Xian's embrace, her eyelids unconsciously closed, and she fell asleep. Yi Zan felt rather sheepish when he saw this scene. Each and every one of his disciples were quite unique, it seemed. The gathering was taking place, yet Shang Yun was happily asleep. Feng Xian was also somewhat taken aback, but chose not to wake her up. Instead, she quietly hugged her and let her sleep. On the other side, Zhu Yuyu had already arrived in an independent space, and her sharp sword aura filled the space. In front of her sat a slender woman. They had not fought yet, and were just sitting quietly opposite each other. As time passed, Zhu Yuyu suddenly thought of her junior sisters and missed them very much. At this moment, the potential ranking list appeared before their eyes. In first place was Mu Baiken, and in second was the Reincarnation Fairy. When she scanned the list, she finally spotted the name she was looking for, Xie Tianyu, in 11th place. Looking at this name, Zhu Yueyu's gaze suddenly turned extremely cold. The woman in front of her was frightened by this. Simply being in the same space as Zhu Yuyu gave her a lot of pressure. However, Zhu Yuyu had not made a move, so she did not act rashly. After seeing the potential ranking list, was she going to make a move? I won't play around with you anymore. Let's end it here. Zhu Yuyu walked over immediately. Seeing this scene, the woman tensed up. No matter what, she was a late-stage Void Realm expert. Was Zhu Yuyu really so confident that she could deal with her so easily? Zhu Yuyu had already unsheathed her Cloud Sky sword and released several sword beams, and the woman failed to react in time and was pierced by these beams. This can't be happening. His eyes were filled with doubt and disbelief. I'm sorry. Quote. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhu Yuyu swung her sword one final time and eliminated the woman. After doing this, a door suddenly appeared in front of Zhu Yuyu, and wisps of fate energy surged into Zhu Yuyu's body. After absorbing the fate energy, Zhu Yuyu's comprehension ability seemed to have increased significantly. She stretched out her palm and looked at it carefully, muttering to herself, so this is the fate energy that teacher told me about. Before they set off, Yi Zan had already told her what to take note of at the gathering and how to accumulate fate energy. Every time she defeated an enemy or broke a certain record, she would be rewarded with fate energy. However, if you were defeated by the enemy during the gathering, 80% of the fate energy you obtained would be taken away by the enemy. It was for this reason that if one wanted to obtain the maximum amount of fate energy, they had to become the champion of the gathering. Zhu Yuyu did not hesitate and directly stepped into the door. Streaks of light engulfed her, and Zhu Yuyu appeared in a new independent space. In this place, she would face a new opponent. Ha ha ha, I'm actually matched with a girl again. I'm really too lucky. It looks like my ranking is going to rise again. After seeing Zhu Yuyu, a young man in a gray robe said these words with a mocking tone. He was completely certain of his victory. I am Shangguan Qing from the Myriad Ghost Sect. Please enlighten me. The young man revealed his background openly. Zhu Yuyu glanced at him and said calmly, I am Zhu Yuyu from the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. After hearing this, the young man's expression instantly stiffened. Zhu Yuyu. Damn it. Was this person not Yi Zan's eldest disciple? The gathering had been going on for some time now, so why was she still at such a low rank? The smile on his face withered away. He had gotten the short end of the stick. He had wanted to avoid fighting these geniuses, so he chose to wait for quite some time before climbing the mountain. However, despite his best efforts, he had just encountered one. Cough cough, you're the eldest disciple of the Sword Immortal. I've heard a lot about you, he said with a trembling and flustered voice. 677 Heart Questioning, Part 1. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Shangguan Qing's arrogance had long disappeared, and he was on the verge of tears. After her battle with Xie Tianyu at the ancient tomb, Zhu Yuyu was now a famous person. Not only was she strong, but she was also Chief Yi Zan's disciple. It's over. Why am I so unlucky? What should I do? He stood there in a daze, which left Zhu Yuyu puzzled. Hey, are you going to fight or not? Hearing this, Shangguan Qing became even more nervous. After a while, he forced a smile onto his face. Let's not fight. Shangguan Qing also knew that there was no way he could defeat Zhu Yuyu. Instead of suffering at her hands, it was better to end this on his own terms. He said, you don't have to waste your energy. Let me do it myself. As soon as he finished speaking, Shangguan Qing raised his hand and slapped himself on the head, instantly eliminating himself. Zhu Yuyu was left dumbfounded. Quote. The battle had not even started yet. Could it be that he did not want to even give it a try? Could it be that these people were afraid of pain? That was the only possibility, right? Being slashed by her Cloud Sky sword would indeed be quite painful. In any case, it saved her some effort, so she did not dwell on the matter. Moments later, fate energy emerged from the spot where Shangguan Qing had disappeared, which then surged into her body. At the same time, Zhu Yuyu's name appeared at the bottom of the ranking list. She finally showed up. The moment they saw Zhu Yuyu's name, many people shouted in surprise. Gao Shun became excited. Do you see now? I did say that she would be able to climb the rankings. I really didn't misjudge her. Looking at Gao Shun shouting happily, Yi Zan was dumbfounded. Was Zhu Yuyu his disciple or Gao Shun's? Senior brother Gao, did you make a mistake? It isn't Gao Tianyu on the rankings, but my disciple. Why are you so happy? Yi Zan asked, sweating profusely. Ha ha ha, I'm just happy for you. It doesn't matter if Tianyu gets on the rankings or not. After all, I did not have expectations for him to become the champion. Gao Shun said these words without a care. Ah, was Gao Tianyu really his son? Yi Zan was very helpless at this moment and did not know what to say to him. Just as everyone was discussing this matter animatedly, the potential ranking list was refreshed again. Oh my god, she's risen to 56th place so quickly. Because Zhu Yuyu could easily finish off her enemies every time, her ranking was rising rapidly. If this situation continued, it would not be long before she reached the top 10. Based on the numbers, Zhu Yuyu's potential value was 49,000 points. Mu Baiken had 85,000 points, and the Reincarnation Fairy had 80,000 points. Seeing this, Taoist Ji Yu Hao's expression became even gloomier. He turned around and looked at Taoist Black Iron. The next stage is the hard questioning stage. I think you know what to do next without me telling you, right? Taoist Black Iron hurriedly nodded and replied, I understand. I'll do it immediately. Quote. As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a communication talisman and sent a message into the ancient realm. Inside, Zhu Yuyu had already arrived at a vast open space. As she did not choose to climb up together with the first group of people at the beginning. Mu Baiken and the other frontrunners had already entered the stage after this. She did not recognize any of the cultivators in this space with her. However, when these cultivators saw Zhu Yuyu, all of them were shocked. At this moment, one of the Supreme Divine Sect's disciples, who had started climbing with Xie Tianyu, received the communication transmission. He glared fiercely at Zhu Yuyu. Let's not act rashly and watch. Many people get stuck at this stage, so it's best if we can stall for time. If she really can pass through the hard questioning stage, then we'll attack immediately. This person from the Supreme Divine Sect made a suggestion, and the other sect disciples hurriedly nodded. Zhu Yuyu had also noticed the Supreme Divine Sect's disciples thanks to their attire after entering the space. However, she only frowned slightly and ignored them. Moments later, she walked up to a huge boulder without hesitation and transferred her spiritual power into it. A beam of light appeared in front of the boulder. An old man with a sage-like appearance was now standing in front of the stone platform, looking at Zhu Yuyu with a kind gaze. The old man stroked his long white beard and asked, May I ask, do you know what Tao is? Tao. This question was neither difficult nor easy. After all, different people had different answers. At this moment, the screen of light outside was projecting Zhu Yuyu's situation in real time, allowing everyone to witness her answer. If I'm not wrong, she won't be able to answer this at all, Taoist Ji Yu Hao said with a cold expression. 678 Hard Questioning, Part 2. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Seeing that Zhu Yuyu was still unable to give an answer, Gao Shun also started to panic and immediately ran over to Yi Zan to ask. Junior brother Yi, did you only teach your disciples cultivation and not the Tao? The question that had been posed was actually not difficult. Anyone who took cultivation seriously would probably be able to answer it easily. Therefore, the fact that Zhu Yuyu was stumped at this moment was a cause for concern. Yi Zan did not bother answering Gao Shun, and simply kept his eyes glued to the screen, awaiting Zhu Yuyu's answer. What was Tao? When she heard these words, Zhu Yuyu was indeed a little stunned, but many answers had already appeared in her heart. She recalled the times when she was cultivating alone on Cloud Sky Peak. Every day, she would go through the same routine unceasingly. She thought about how she would cultivate diligently every day and reflected on the experience. At that time, she had just stepped onto the path of cultivation purely to take revenge for her parents. This was her initial goal. However, why did she cultivate as hard as she did? In order to find out the answer to this question, she had even asked her teacher, and what her teacher said was deeply engraved in her mind. Therefore, Zhu Yuyu answered without hesitation, to protect. I want to have the strength to protect those around me and those I care for. To protect the peace and stability of their world. This is my Tao. After hearing this, the onlookers revealed looks of surprise. I've heard many answers to this question, but this is the first time I've heard something like this. Cultivating in order to protect. Getting stronger in order to ensure the safety and stability of those around me. Well said. No one had expected this answer from her, including those watching from outside the ancient realm. Who would have thought that Zhu Yuyu, who always had a cold expression and seemed indifferent to everything, would actually profess this to be her Tao? It was an ideal worth fighting for. Even Taoist Kanghai and Taoist Shu Yun were shocked. It was not an answer they had expected from someone so young. Something like this would usually come from an experienced cultivator who had gone through the vicissitudes of life. Semicolon. Little brother Yizan, this disciple of yours is really amazing. Although she's still young, her state of mind is boundless. I truly admire her, Taoist Kanghai said emotionally. Yizan was also rather taken aback at this moment. After all, he had said this to Zhu Guoyu before, but had not expected her to take it to heart like this. Haha, she really makes me proud. She's truly worth cultivating and nurturing, Taoist Shu Yun said with a smile. His heart was already filled with envy. Not only was Yizan extremely powerful, but every single one of his disciples was outstanding. Was he blessed by the heavens? At this moment, Taoist Ji Yu Hao's face turned extremely ugly. In comparison to what he had heard from the other disciples, Zhu Guoyu's answer indeed stood out. Most people answered that they wanted to become stronger for themselves, not to protect others. Damn it, having been made a fool of repeatedly, he could barely contain his anger. There was nothing to nitpick about her answer at all. It really seemed like nothing had gone right today. At the thought of this, Taoist Ji Yu Hao began to regret it. If he had not fallen out with Yizan in the beginning, the Supreme Divine Sect would not be in this current predicament. However, hindsight was 20/20, and regretting things now would not be able to change the past. His stubbornness had gotten them into hot soup. Now, their only hope was Xie Tianyu. If he did well in the gathering, they would be able to recover some measure of dignity. If he did not, well, Taoist Ji Yu Hao did not want to think about that outcome. After hearing Zhu Guoyu's answer, the sage-like old man muttered to himself, to protect, obtaining strength in order to protect. The Tao of protection. Good. That's great. After thinking for a moment, the old man burst into laughter. Then, he released a golden beam of light that shot into Zhu Guoyu's body. This golden beam of light contained a large amount of fate energy, far more than had been awarded to anyone who had answered this question before this. 679 Catching Up Part 1. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So I've asked thousands of young cultivators this question, and I can tell that your answer is genuine and heartfelt. This is truly something I did not expect to hear from someone your age. Zhu Guoyu, congratulations on passing the heart-questioning stage. The old man said this with a smile on his face. Then, his figure gradually disappeared and was replaced by a huge door. Zhu Guoyu was currently stunned due to the large amount of fate energy that had entered her body. Also, she did not expect the words she had heard from her teacher back then to be evaluated so favorably. This had truly benefited her. At the same time, her admiration for Yizan grew. While she was deep in thought, her senses started tingling, and she refocused her attention on her surroundings. Attack. At this moment, more than a dozen people from the Supreme Divine Sect charged at her. Zhu Guoyu instantly released a terrifying baleful aura. She calmly turned around and looked at them, saying coldly, "Are you all in such a hurry to die?" As soon as she finished speaking, Zhu Guoyu sent a nearby Supreme Divine Sect flying with her sword, instantly eliminating him. Instant kill. The group was unable to react at all as they watched this scene in shock. The person who had been eliminated was a peak-level materialization realm cultivator, but had been eliminated so easily. Seeing this, the charging Supreme Divine Sect's cultivators stopped in their tracks. Some even turned away to run. However, Zhu Guoyu had already locked onto them with her aura, and moments later, she unleashed a flurry of sword beams that instantly eliminated them. Hee, Supreme Divine Sect. It's better for you guys to change your name to Trashy Sect in the future. After dealing with them, she put away the Cloud Sky Sword and stepped into the door that led to the next space. Taoist Ji Yu Hao, who had witnessed this, felt his face burn from the shame. Every single attempt the Supreme Divine Sect had made against Yizan or his disciples had been in vain. They were soundly defeated and humiliated each time. At this moment, Zhu Guoyu's ranking on the potential list was rising at a rapid speed. Her score was now 79,000 points, and her ranking had risen to 10th place, pushing Xie Tianyu, who was originally ranked 11th, into 12th place. Hee, Taoist Black Iron, it looks like your disciple has been surpassed. He's doing well, but not well enough. Tisk, don't celebrate prematurely, Gao Shun. Anything can happen. Taoist Black Iron was already fuming with anger. Hearing this, Gao Shun immediately retorted, "All right, let's wait and see then. However, I advise you to prepare some medicine for yourself first." Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if you faint from anger. Before you care about others, you should take care of yourself first. After saying that, Taoist Black Iron stomped off. Inside, Zhu Guoyu had already arrived at the next stage, and to her surprise, saw many familiar faces there. Mu Baikan, the reincarnation fairy, Hua Rufeng. They were all here. There were also a few unfamiliar faces that Zhu Guoyu could not recognize. Oh my, look who's here, Xie Tianyu said coldly when he saw another figure appear. When he saw that it was Zhu Guoyu, the smile on his face became even colder. Noticing Zhu Guoyu's arrival, Mu Baikan laughed. Haha, things are getting more and more interesting. At this moment, Hua Rufeng hurriedly came over and said, Junior Sister Zug, you've finally arrived. Zhu Guoyu nodded and said, Senior Brother Hua, what exactly is going on? Why are so many people still here? Hua Rufeng replied, in this space, 10 people will be selected. Only these 10 people will be qualified to ascend to the summit. That's why this place is called the summit space. There are only 18 people here at the moment, and the space will activate once 2 more join us here. Therefore, we're all waiting now. After hearing this, Zhu Guoyu understood what was going on. It seemed that they required 20 people to proceed. Mu Baikan was still ranked first, the reincarnation fairy was ranked second, Xu Chengqing was ranked 6th, Xie Tianyu was ranked 12th, and Hua Rufeng was ranked 17th. They still needed 2 people. Who would these 2 be? 680 Catching Up Part 2. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. At this moment, the atmosphere at the scene had unknowingly become heavy, like a brewing storm. Although no one had started fighting yet, all it would take was a spark to ignite a great battle. Ever since Zhu Guoyu entered this space, she would glance at Xie Tianyu coldly from time to time. Every time, Xie Tianyu would glare back at her coldly. Mu Baikan smiled when he saw this. He looked at Xie Tianyu and said, Haha, Tianyu, if I'm not wrong, you won't have it easy this time. Hearing this, Xie Tianyu said indifferently, Tisk, isn't she just a little girl? She's not worth taking seriously at all. Is that so? In that case, I'll be hoping for a good show, Mu Baikan said casually. Then, he decided to stoke the flames. Ahem, how should I put this? In my opinion, you really can't beat Zhu Guoyu. His words enraged Xie Tianyu, who thought that it was fine to lose to anyone but her. Mu Baikan, what do you mean by that? Mu Baikan waved his hand and said, it's nothing, really. I'm just airing my thoughts out loud. Besides, haven't you been defeated by her before? Xie Tianyu's face turned cold. It was a fact that he could not refute, at least not until he defeated her this time and regained his honor. The reincarnation fairy remained silent as a bystander. She had already figured out that Mu Baikan was deliberately teasing Xie Tianyu. A moment later, the door fluctuated, which caught everyone's attention. First sister. A voice was heard, and a figure rushed toward Zhu Guoyu like a tiny bolt of lightning. At this moment, everyone present was dumbfounded. Why is it a little girl? Almost all the geniuses of the East Continent had joined the gathering, but this little girl was only 6 years old at most. How did she manage to reach this point? Even Zhu Guoyu was very confused. She rubbed her third sister's head and asked with a puzzled expression, Third sister, how did you get here so quickly? Where is second sister? After hearing this, Shang Yun panicked. After looking around, he whispered into Zhu Guoyu's ear. First sister, I just beat up the old man who was guarding the door. That's why I got sent over here so quickly. FCK, that works. Even though Shang Yun spoke very softly, everyone heard her clearly. Shouldn't the hard questioning be a test of a person's state of mind? How did she pass so easily just by beating the old man up? Oh my god, we were so naive. Outside the ancient realm, a group of people who were watching the screen stared at each other. They had not been paying attention to Shang Yun ever since she fell asleep, and had been observing the situation in the summit space. This included Yi Zan, who was also dumbfounded. How did his third disciple make it there? The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. Fortunately, the screen had quite a useful function, and recorded everything that went on in the ancient realm. Therefore, Taoist Kanghai immediately injected a stream of spiritual power into the screen to retrieve the scene of what had transpired before Shang Yun reached the summit space. After a while, the screen switched to a scene 30 minutes ago. At this moment, after Zhu Guoyu passed the hard questioning stage, there were still remaining people at this stage, who were furtively discussing what had happened. Heavens! Yi Zan's eldest disciple is too strong. Did you notice? Zhu Guiyu's potential score is now more than 79,000. If she hadn't waited for others to act first, she might even be ranked first. That door leads to the summit space. I wonder if there are enough people to activate the space inside yet. At this moment, a little girl suddenly appeared in this space, and everyone fell silent. Which sect is this little girl from? Why is she here? Everyone was puzzled as Xiangyun began to observe her surroundings. Where had second sister gone? No matter where she looked, she could not find Feng Xian. What happened? This little girl is at most 6 years old. Why is she even here? Some people were very puzzled. After all, those who could reach this stage were all geniuses to some extent. However, this girl had not even started her journey on the path of spiritual cultivation. How did she get here? After a while, a disciple finally couldn't help but rub Xiangyun's little head and ask, "Little friend, which sect are you from? Why did you come to this place?" Seeing this scene, a certain disciple immediately broke out in a cold sweat, and his legs could not help but tremble. FCK, what is he doing? Does he want to step on the tiger's tail? This disciple's face was already pale and powerless. After all, he had been one of the lucky few who escaped Xiangyun's massacre earlier. Now, a deep sense of fear assaulted him whenever he looked at her.